When we get all, uh,
Sorry, I wasn't recording. I wanted to record this in process.
okay. We would go into the woods, man, and we would play army. So we'd gather up all the Christmas trees that people would throw out and take them over to the woods and make a fort.
Okay.
And then we would play army over there in the fort. Well, we didn't have a lot of toys like kids have today. Most of the toys we had to make.
Okay.
Also, we made our own stick horses. We would go to a construction site and get some of those furring strips
Okay.
and make a hole in it toward one end and put a rope through there, tie that rope on the end, and that would be our way to hold the horse while we run down the street with that stick between our legs.
Okay.
We called it a stick horse, right?
Right.
And we had skates, and skates were pretty nice. But as soon as the skates weren't useful anymore, we would take the skate apart and nail the wheels to a 2x4. And then put another part on the front of the 2x4, put another 2x4. So you got 2x4s at a perpendicular angle. And then we put another one across the top for a handle, and that will be our skateboard.
Okay.
And we'd run up and down, ride up and down the street with the skateboards, But
Okay.
there weren't a lot of toys for us to play with. We had a lot of fun just being with each other and just doing stuff like when Hurricane Hazel came in 1958, we went over into the woods and climbed up in the trees.
During a hurricane.
Yeah, and as the wind blew, we rode the tree. The tree would go back and forth, in the wind, and we'd be hanging on up in there riding with the wind.
In a hurricane.
In a hurricane, but we didn't know it was a hurricane.
Right.
We just knew there was a heavy wind.
Okay.
And where I was living out there on Sheriff Road, there were woods across the street from the apartments we lived in. And that's where we spent a lot of our time hanging out in those woods.
Okay.
Because it was a baseball lot right across the street. And I don't mean it was a dirt lot with glass bottles and sticks and stones and all that. And we got up as much of that as we could. And that was our baseball field.
Okay.
That's where we played all of our baseball. And right behind that was an alley. And when we went to the alley, they had a lamp post in the alley to light up the alley. And we took a basketball rim and nailed it to that wooden light post, and that was our basketball court.
Okay. Okay.
So that was where we spent a lot of our time, on that basketball court, on that dirt field. And that went on for a long time, as I can remember. Now you have to remember that a lot of the stuff I did, I can't remember. It's kind of hard for me to remember a lot because I have a period of time in my life that's blank.
Really?
There's nothing in there. And I'm thinking that was probably from the time my mother left us. As my mother left my father with 6 children. And she went off to live with Johnny and had 3 more kids with Johnny, right? So from that time when she left, I don't have a lot of memory of it.
How old were you when that happened?
I'm thinking that when that happened, I was probably around 7 or 8.
Wow. Okay.
I'm gonna have to ask Raymond and Carolyn and what time it was, but I was around, I don't remember her being there when I was in the third grade. Maybe in the third or fourth grade was when I remember her not being there.
Okay.
And then my memory doesn't pick up until almost maybe, I remember some of the seventh grade.
Okay.
Fifth grade, fourth and fifth grade, I don't have anything going on there, right? Seventh grade, I do remember a little bit about that because I knew I went to Brown Junior High School. And I had no real interest in school.
Okay.
I mean, none. I didn't even apply myself,
Right.
especially in junior high school. In the first, because see, look, I failed the ninth grade at Brown Junior High School.
Okay.
Got all F's.
Wow.
And when it was time for me to go back to school, they built the new Carter G. Woodson Junior High School on Minnesota Avenue
Okay.
that we could walk to, right? And they sent me there to repeat the ninth grade.
Okay.
So I graduated from Woodson. In fact, I was in Woodson Junior High School's first graduating class.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then from there, I went to Spingarn.
Okay.
When I got to Spingarn, I didn't stay there but a half a year, and then I dropped out. So as soon as my birthday came in December, I dropped out of Spingarn.
And what birthday was that?
Uh-huh.
Birthday was that? 16 or 18 or?
16.
Okay.
Once you turned 16 back then, you could drop out of school. You didn't have to go to school.
Okay.
And you didn't have to worry about a truant officer, because back then we had truant officers, and they see you walking down the street, they'll pick you up.
Right.
And take you back to the school or take you home. But as soon as I turned 16, I didn't have to worry about that. So I just dropped out of Spingarn. And then I just hung out with the thugs, the other dropouts. Half of them dead. The ones I was with, first they went to jail.
Right.
Bank robbery and stuff like that. And that was the time that I got over to Earlene and Dimps. Over there with Dimples and Lord and Alfred.
Right.
When I dropped out, I went over there because my father told me, you do whatever you want to do, because I'm finished. I've done whatever I can do.
Right.
And he used to beat me a lot because I wouldn't go to school. In fact, one time I remember he beat me 5 straight days. Wow. Because I wouldn't go to school. He would just come home from work and ask me, did you go to school? And I'd say no. So he said, go get ready. Go get ready, man. Go take everything off. And he would beat me. And he did that, until Friday of that week. And then he told me, well, I can't do no more. Right. So you do whatever you want to do. You do whatever you want to do. So I just hung around for a while over there, with the guys in the neighborhood. They would go to school. I would stay home with the other people who didn't want to go to school. And we'd play Monopoly and do all kinds, play games and stuff till school was out. Right. And once school was out, everybody was back in the neighborhood. Then we go play games, play basketball, hide and go seek, anything, right? And we did that for a while. And then I went over Earlene's once. One day I remember that Nadine got a bicycle for Christmas. And I took her bicycle and rode it over to Earlene's, on Earlene's. And he called up that evening and told me I would get my A back over there with that bicycle, right? So he said, if you got to walk it back, you walk that bike back over here. So I went back over there with the bike, you know. He told me, really, he said, get on that bike and ride till you get back over here. Right? And I did that. And after that, I just started staying over Earlene's.
Okay.
Now that's what I can remember of that part, you know. But if we go back, we used to have you won't remember this, but there was a 44th Street, and 44th Street was a hill. 44th Street was a real road that went downhill.
Okay.
And we would get together and get one of those barrels. I don't know what they were made of back then. I'll say a steel barrel.
Okay.
And we'd go over in the woods and get wood and fill that barrel up with wood and set it on fire.
Really?
And once we had the fire, then we would get our sleds and sled down that hill.
Oh, okay.
And then when we come back up, we could warm our hands by the fire before we go down again. But we only had a couple of sleds for all these people. So they used to call what we would do is flop. Somebody would start down the hill, and before they get halfway, 2 or 3 people would have flopped on top. You know? So by the time that sled got down to the bottom of the hill, it may have 3 or 4 people on it, right? And then we'd all fall off and laugh, and that was fun. Oh, that was fun. Then we go back up and do it again. So that was usually the fun we had when it snowed, other than snowball fights, throwing snowballs at the bus when it came by. You know. Those were the things that I kind of remember. And by the time I got to junior high school, we had a lot of house parties. And in fact, there was a house party every weekend, just about every weekend.
Really?
All year long, there was a house party. Somebody's house, everybody in the neighborhood would gather in their basement.
Right.
That's where you hear them talk about the blue lights in the basement.
Okay.
Yeah, because there would be a blue light, and we'd be in there dancing, and we're doing the thing we call the rub. And the rub was where you real tight with the girl, you know, and you rubbing and getting erections and all that stuff. You know?
Okay.
And then we did the jitterbug, because we call what they call hand dancing today, we call the jitterbug.
Okay.
And the jitterbug, we used to do a lot of that, teach each other a lot of the new dances. But that's how we spent weekends, you know. We were either in the woods, especially during the summer. We would be in the woods, or we'd be playing ball on the dirt lot, or we'd be playing basketball in the alley. Or we would be hanging out in the evenings, we would hang out with the girls.
Okay.
And the neighborhood girls, you know, we'd sit around, especially during the summer, we'd sit around and just talk and play games like Mother May I, and spin the bottle.
Okay.
And hide and go seek and all that stuff. You know, we did all those little games. And I was kind of lonely, but not lonely because I had the neighborhood people. But at that point, Carol was wherever she wanted to be. That's why Carol's email now is Gypsy. You ever notice her thing is Gypsy Noel?
Yes.
Yeah, that's because Carol stayed with the mother. She stayed at home sometimes. She stayed at neighbors' houses. She stayed wherever she felt like staying.
Right.
Raymond eventually went to Pittsburgh with Aunt Helena, Catherine and Charles and Charlene. And he finished high school up there. Bro went to Northwest with my grandmother, with my mother's mother.
Okay.
And so when all of that went down, and then Nadine and Leilani went to stay with my uncle Herbert, my father's brother, right?
Okay.
Which left me the only one at home until I was 16 and dropped out of Spangard. And that's when I went over to stay with Earl Green for a while. But I had a real sort of lonely kind of upbringing because all my brothers and sisters were somewhere else.
Right.
It was just me and my father there at the house. And he was working all the time. I mean, he worked at St. Elizabeth's too. So his shifts kept changing, sometimes day shifts, sometimes evening, sometimes night. But he eventually ended up doing all day shift. Yeah, he ended up doing mostly day shifts. So. But then he wasn't, he was a drinker, so he and some of the relatives would come over, like Dimps would come over and Earlene would come over. And
Right.
some of his brothers and none of his sisters, always the brothers and their wives, they would come over and they'd be sitting up in the apartment and they drinking, but it wasn't anything for me.
Right.
I'd end up going in the back bedroom. We only had 2 bedrooms, so I'd be back in that back bedroom. And I don't even know what I was doing back there other than just out of their face because they didn't like us hanging around them.
Right.
They'd tell you go somewhere, right? Go somewhere. But that's probably the beginning of what I remember until after I went back to high school. Because I remember I was over Earlene's. And I liked it over Earlene's because Lord and Alfred and Dimples, well, mostly Lloyd. We would hang out down at Watts Branch Playground, which was like a half a block from their house on 62nd Street out there in Sea Pleasant. We called it Sea Pleasant, right? Far northeast. And we would go down there during the summer. We'd go down there every day and play baseball on the playground because they had supervision on the playground and they had a little house on the playground. You could go in there and learn skills like what to do with gimp, make plastic keychains and stuff like that.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and then we learned we played a lot of ping pong because they had ping pong tables.
Okay.
Lloyd was a master of the ping pong. Lloyd could really do stuff, right? And then they played baseball and we played basketball. That's where I met Dave Bain. I met Dave Bing on that basketball court. Now I was 2 years older than they were. So I could take advantage of them, you know. They couldn't keep up with me. But it was, you know, we had a lot of fun, and I think that's where a lot of the guys learned how to dribble, because the basketball court had a lot of holes and cracks and stuff in it.
Oh, so you had to know what you were doing.
You had to know how to dribble and get around all that before you could shoot and stuff. But we did a lot of that for a while. And then, how long do we go with this session?
We can stop. I mean, we got enough. I think we want to break it down into some sections. We're going to do this every week for.
All right, so we'll pick up from there next time.
Yeah. Well, that was nice. It's good to hear some stuff. Now, what I had envisioned when I was going to do this with just you and I was to kind of invite like Aaron and Renee, see if they wanted to come listen. Maybe Nicole and Sean and the grandkids. I don't know how big you were comfortable this getting, or
I don't care.
Or if we wanted to like invite Carol or start making it like a chat with the old folks kind of thing every once.
Whatever you want to do is fine with me.
Okay.
I ain't hiding.
Keep working on it, because this is good stuff to get to know. And at the end of this, at the very least, you're going to have a hardbound book, and it's going to be your story, and you're telling your story right now. What I would like to see is for everybody, you know, like Aunt Carol to have her story, Nadine to have her story, and we could amass the broadest story. You know, in a wide spectrum.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Okay.
Well,
that's what I'll see if I can get happening, but just wanted to get you to, as a part of it, get the ball rolling. So I'll probably invite some people.
The more people we have, the fewer gaps will be in the story.
Yeah. And I think it'd be great for the grandkids, and I'm videotaping it. So for future generations, we'll have stories and videos and ways for people to access. Because I watch these ancestry shows. They have them on TV every once in a while. And they always go back and they're like, oh, my great grandfather did this. And here's his story. He was the mayor of this, and he did this, that, and the other. And then I started to think, I go, you know what? I don't know anything about my great grandparents. And if I did go back, I don't know how much is written in the books about your father's father.
Right.
And when you go into Ancestry, I looked and all I could see was a census from your father in, God, I can't even remember when it was, but it was a census, and you were probably around 7.
Oh, okay.
But it was a census on the ancestry.com. So if I were to research, I mean, I could probably find more, but I just thought it'd be easier for future, you know, for Aaron and Renee or their kids or their kids, there'll be stories and they'll know what the family was like and what everybody was about. So.
Oh, okay.
But that's kind of what I wanted to get at. So we'll see if we can make that happen.
All right. Fine with me.
All right.
Well, however you want to do it, I'm in.
Okay. Well, I'll see what the easiest way to get this stuff down on paper or at least on the computer, and then we'll work it from there.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I said hello. Love you all.
Love you too. Amy's at work. All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.